Hello and welcome to the National Leadership Briefing. My name is Doug Sharp and I will be your host for today. Well, it is Friday, December the 1st, 2023. This is in fact the last National Leadership Briefing of 2023 on the home stretch to Christmas and the new year. Looking forward to serving you right till the next briefing, which if you want to mark in your calendar is Friday, January the 5th. We're going to continue our work today, the things that we've been focusing on lately, and we're going to be introducing some new things today that we are going to be looking at on the road ahead as well. So first of all, lots to cover today. Let's get right into the agenda. As I have told you before, those who show up right on time, they get the advantage of actually hearing the agenda, what we're going to cover today, so you can sort of get a track in your mind as to where we're going and how we're going to get there. First of all, there is a strategic prayer overlay on everything that we're going to be talking about today. That means that for those of you who are familiar with our service dashboard here on the National Leadership Briefing, we believe that there are opportunities for us to target prayer and use specific moments in time while we execute our strategies to pray to break through in certain points, or to cover or to protect or to provide assistance or bolster circumstances with prayer. So we are going to be using a strategic overlay of prayer today to point out some of the opportunities where those of you who are called to pray can actually dig in and start praying for very specific things at very specific moments in time. So that's overlaid on everything today. Then we're going to be going to the answer period segment. For those of you familiar with the House of Commons, once a week in the National Parliament, we have a question period. It's a period of time where the opposition has the opportunity to ask the government questions. And if you've watched it a few times, you know that there are a lot of questions, but not many answers. Well, we have something here on the National Leadership Briefing called Answer Period, where we definitely provide the answer to your questions. And you've asked a pretty good one recently. I want to make sure we cover off here this morning. Second of all, we're going to continue our work here today in the importance of understanding that we must negotiate for platform with the incoming Conservative government. At the federal level, we are going to have a change in government. Everything is pointing towards an opportunity that is coming on the horizon where there'll be a federal election and we will have the opportunity to install a new government in our nation. But if we don't make it clear to the incoming government about what it is that we require to earn our support with our vote, then we are going to make a tragic mistake, because the new government will get in and they will not be prepared to meet the commitments that they've given us, because we haven't asked them for anything. So we're going to make sure that we're going to drill and train a little bit more today on what you can do, and I mean you locally can do, to negotiate with your local candidate or your incumbent Conservative member of Parliament as to what it is that they're going to require to do for you or commit to do for you while in government for your vote at election time. So we're going to go there again. We're also going to talk about Israel, but we're going to, because we're a Canadian ministry here, I know there's a lot of people, including myself, who definitely stand with Israel. We're going to take a look at Israel and where they are at. However, we're going to also take a more of a focus on the Jewish family that lives right in our neighborhoods. You know, we have a situation here in Canada where there's some security concerns, and I really believe there's an opportunity for us to stand not only with Israel in the Middle East, but also to stand with our Jewish neighbors here in Canada. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We've got an upcoming Community Action Council event that I'm going to be sharing details with you on today. And we also have an artificial intelligence event that we are putting together for Alberta residents, but there might be an opportunity for you to zoom in on the presentation. So I'll keep you posted on that. And then finally, we're going to close it out today with a reminder of something I shared a little while back. Was I saw the things that were coming at us on the horizon from not only the political but governmental spheres at not only the federal, provincial, and municipal levels, but we also saw a need for us to prepare by building infrastructure within our churches. So I'm going to remind you today of something I encourage you strongly to do as members of church families, is to have conversations about building the infrastructure in your churches so that you are resilient and prepared for what is coming at you down the road. And they are threats. They are definitely threats. And these things that I'm going to remind you of today will, of course, help you deal with those and confront those when they arrive at your doorstep in the immediate future. So that's going to be a big session today. We're going to have a great time. I'm excited about having you here. I sure appreciate the quality decision you made to join us today. And also, I should say thank you to all of those who responded to our Giving Tuesday request. We haven't participated as the National Leadership Briefing or Canada Family Action in Giving Tuesday, but this year we found there was a need for us to participate and to ask you to partner with us so we can continue our work into 2024. Many of you responded on our website, which you can see there, familyaction.ca, and many of you responded to the emails we sent you. Thank you so much. If you haven't done it yet and you'd still like to do it though, just go to familyaction.ca and you can participate and engage as a financial partner of our organization and the work that we do. So thanks for your time today. Let's get started right after this quick video, and we will jump right into the answer period segment. Bye for now. Okay, let's get started with answer period today. The question that you have asked, and we've had actually a few people ask that over the years that we've been doing this, because we've been here, we're in our 4th year now on the National Leadership Briefing. Why the 4 pillars as the rally points? And the second part of the question is, and why do you repeat yourself so much when it comes to certain things on the briefing? So I thought that was a good question worth responding to, because I have heard this before. I've heard, why the 4 pillars? What is it about the 4 pillars? Why are those the rally points? But let's go to the second part first. Okay, let's answer the second part of that question. Why do I repeat myself? Why are there consistently the same things woven throughout the information that we deliver here on the National Leadership Briefing? Well, first of all, as you'll notice, there are certain things in every agenda that are timely and immediate, and things that we're working on right in the moment, like the conversation we're going to have today about Israel and the Jewish people that live in our neighborhood. That's something that is very timely. It's happening right now. We'll deal with that. However, there's a structure to the National Leadership Briefing to answer your question, which is designed to accommodate the new person that you refer. So, for example, if you are a person that has asked the question of, well, wait a second, we always go through over the 4 pillars. We always go over this. It seems to be repetitious on the National Leadership Briefing. That is because you are on the briefing getting to a point of competence. So first of all, you come on the briefing, you don't know anything about the pillars, you don't know anything about why we rally around them. That's part of the question today. And you start becoming more and more informed about what we do here on the briefing and how it works. And then you start hearing it over and over again, and you raise your level of confidence and competence as a result of hearing it over and over again. Now, at the point where you are starting to go, hey, I'm a little frustrated because you keep repeating the same thing, that should be a signal to you as someone on the briefing that it's time for you to now invite someone else to hear the message for the first time, because that's the whole idea of the briefing is that we want to help you build your influence locally. We acknowledge that you're the center of your sphere of influence, and the National Leadership Briefing is ultimately what you're going to have confidence in, that you can refer people to sort of get them all on the same page as to how it works to grow your sphere of influence. So if you're on the briefing and you're saying, Doug, you're repeating yourself an awful lot, think to yourself, okay, wait a second, maybe I need to start inviting people then. That's the trigger right there, is maybe I need to start bringing people on and letting them hear it for the first time. Now, you still keep coming on, because the idea is that after a period of time, you yourself are going to be extremely competent in delivering the message of the 4 pillars. Now, which brings me to the second part of the question. Why the 4 pillars? Well, if I'm going to first, of course, refer you to the NLB Essentials webpage. I'll make sure that this link is in the post notes that you'll receive today. But the NLB Essentials webpage, there's something called the 4 Pillars Story. The 4 pillars came from a series of surveys that we did across Canada with the people that we serve in the church. And we simply asked them, we said, what is it that's important to you? What are your priorities? What do you feel is is valued and important and something you would fight for, or that you would actually take action to defend. And we came up with the responses, but it was pretty common throughout those all the responses. There were 4 things that were very much a priority to you overall in Canada. First of all, the authority of you as a parent to raise your children the way you want. That is the first pillar. And again, if you're hearing this for the 40th time and you're able to recite it, then you need to turn around and go tell someone else to join the briefing, because that's that repetition that you're hearing, right? You're hearing the parents have a right to raise their children the way they want. That's the first pillar. The second thing that we rally around here on the briefing is that we believe collectively, as individuals and collectively, that we have a right of belief and freedom to exercise our religion. And we want the people that we elect to respect and defend that right of belief and freedom of religion. So that's the second pillar. The third pillar is that we believe that the laws and policies of civil government must provide for the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable that live among us in our neighborhoods. So for those of you who are in the churches and you have a heart for the elderly or the people with chronic pain or the homeless or the hungry, these are all vulnerable people that live in our communities. We want to make sure that government is prioritizing their care when they draft policies and enact laws. So that's what we do, is we look for opportunities on the briefing to advance that to government as a priority. And then finally, of course, something that's very important to mothers and fathers and families is that we believe that it is inappropriate for civil government to heap debt upon the backs of our children and future generations. So we collectively together believe that the future generations and that burden of tax that's being placed on their backs by civil government must be removed. So we look for opportunities. So when you say why the 4 pillars, well, first of all, the 4 pillars came from you. They came from people like you in your church families. You told us, you said, these are the things that are important to us, and we made a commitment to you to look for ways to advance the principles that undergird those 4 pillars into society, culture, politics, and government. And that's what we bring you. We bring you on the National Leadership Briefing monthly opportunities for us to get together and use our combined voice to advance these principles of the 4 pillars. So that's why the 4 pillars. Now, we also ask people and to understand and acknowledge, look, there's a lot of differences in us out there. Like we serve a lot of Christians here, of course, from different denominations. There's Jewish folks that join us here on the briefing. We have some Sikh people that join us on the briefing, and we have Muslims that believe in the same things we do. So there are things that we must set aside in the way of our differences when we come together to speak with a unified voice on, say, the issue of parental authority and the right of parents to decide how their children are educated, for example. So these are the reasons why we come together and rally around the 4 pillars and set aside everything else, is because they are unifying points. They are the rally points that we run to when we want to execute. It's the foundation from with which we take any action at all. We're always looking in everything we do, and you'll see this today, to advance these principles. Now, that's enough of that for now. But what is the strategic prayer opportunity? Because that's the overlay today. What are the strategic prayer opportunities, I should say, when it comes to the 4 pillars? Well, if you look at the 4 pillars and you are a praying person, then you would pray that people would respond to the call. And I'm using this as an example. It's whatever the Lord leads you to pray out of or pray through this. But I'm saying right now is that if there is a group of people that are getting together that believe that parents have the right to raise their children the way they want, then you could pray for people to respond to the call to rally together around that principle of parental authority, or right of belief and freedom of religion, that we ask our elected officials to not only respect, but we also ask them to defend our right of belief and freedom of religion, to stand up in the House of Commons when our religious freedoms are being attacked with bad legislation or just conversations that take place there. We can pray that our elected officials would have the courage to stand in defense of our right of belief and freedom of religion, to fight for us in the House of Commons against these bad pieces of legislation. So you can see there are all these opportunities. So as you look at the National Leadership Briefing website, or as you watch a briefing here yourself, and you're a strategic prayer partner of ours, please look for those moments in time where you can see, oh, wait a second, I can pray specifically about parental authority and for parents to respond. I can pray for our elected officials. I can pray for the vulnerable that we're trying to protect with good quality legislation. All of these things are excellent opportunities for you to pray for, and I encourage you to do so. Okay, well, that's it for the answer period segment for today. We're going to move on because I've got a lot of information we want to continue to share with you and drill and train with you today on this negotiating for platform that we're doing. This is the opportunity that we have before us to let the incoming Conservative government and their elected representatives in each of the local districts, we want them to know what's important to us, and we want to make sure you know how to communicate effectively to them so that they actually hear you and take action when it comes to being elected or approaching the House of Commons or going to meet with their caucus colleagues in Ottawa. We want to make sure that they take our message with them into the new government. All right, so we'll be right back after this quick video, and we'll continue on with negotiating for platform here on the National Leadership Briefing. Bye for now. These are the things that we believe in. First, that parents have the right to raise their children the way they want. Second, that those we elect to serve us in civil government must respect and defend our right of belief and freedom of religion. Number three, that the laws and policies of civil government must provide for the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable among us. And number four, that it is inappropriate to heap debt upon the backs of our children and future generations. They came from you. They're your pillars. They're the things that you believe. Okay, well, that is the answer period segment and the 4-pillar video. Now, there'll be a link in our post-briefing notes today for those of you who are receiving them. If you're registered for the briefing on our website, you will receive the post-briefing notes. If you're just watching this video on one of our social media platforms and you want to get the post notes in the future, just go to nlbcanada.ca. That's the National Leadership Briefing website, nlbcanada.ca, and register for the next briefing, and you will receive all the post notes. Of course, for those of you on our social media sites here today, appreciate it if you'd like and share this video with others. That really helps us with the algorithm. All right, negotiating for platform, the all-important thing that we are doing right now, because it is critical to our success if we have an incoming Conservative government, which I believe that we have coming down the pipe here. So how do we negotiate for platform? Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to refer you to our YouTube channel. We have the not only the October briefing, but the November briefing. We have been referring to the task of negotiating for platform for the last 2 videos. We've done some training on it. So October and November's National Leadership Briefing on our YouTube channel, the National Leadership Briefing YouTube channel, you will be able to find the training segments on negotiating for platform. But just to give you a quick, a quick reminder, what we have done is we are working a long-term strategy to advance the principles that undergird the 4 pillars into society, culture, politics, and government. Well, in the political and governmental realm, we have an opportunity to advance policies within the political parties. Most recently, we went to, and when I say we, Canada Family Action, the National Leadership Briefing, many of the people that we serve actually became recruited to participate in the convention of the Conservative Party of Canada. And it's a convention where people get together every 2 years and they advance policy amendments and new policies into the policy book of the party. So this is the policy book of the Conservative Party of Canada. Now, this one that I've got in my hand is actually hot off the press. We just went to a policy convention this past summer. Many of us, we went with not only our people, but Fatine had her crew there. We had Jack Fonseca and Jeff Gunnarsson from Campaign Life Coalition. We had Scott and Alyssa from Right Now. There were people in there from all over, from across Canada, people who share our views and values, and we work to advance principles in the form of policies into this book. And this book, I'm going to put a link to it in the post notes today, because this book reflects the success that we had in advancing policies that reflect our views and values into that policy book. However, why are we talking about that now when I'm talking about negotiating for platform? Getting your ideas and your print, the things that you believe in, enshrined into the policy book of a political party is one thing. The second thing, though, is we need the current governing leadership and the national campaign teams to take that leading that we gave them at the policy convention and actually turn it into platform planks, commitments, things that they are willing to stand up at election time and say to us, if you vote for me, we commit to doing this. But if we don't enter the conversation with our local candidates, if we don't enter the conversation with our incumbent conservative members of parliament about what it is that they have to do to secure our commitment to vote for them, if we don't have those conversations, then they will simply be elected, and we will have made no arrangement with them, deal with them, that we will have given them no mandate, any kind of direction from the church in Canada. So how is it that we negotiate for platform, you and me, just local citizens in our local community? Well, that's what we're going to talk about here now. I'm going to give you some real live tips on how it is that you can negotiate for platform. First of all, remember, we're working a national strategy to advance 4 very specific principles within the 4 pillars. So go to the 4 pillars to look for the fodder or the information or the grounding that you want to make your appeal based on. So you want to go and you want to sit in front of somebody and you want to negotiate for platform. Why don't you talk to them about the things that you believe? The fact that you believe that parents have the right to raise your children the way you want. That's a foundational to all of us. That's what we believe as parents within the faith community across Canada. But how do you convert that into asking them to make a commitment? Well, this is how it works. You simply write it out and say, these are the things that I believe, and this is what I'm going to ask you about that. What is it that you're willing to commit to, Mr. Candidate or Miss Candidate? What is it that you're willing to commit to earn my support at election time? Knowing that I believe that parents have a right to raise their children the way they want. And so you're having a very simple question with them, posing a very simple question. What are you willing to commit to? Because what you're willing to do as a voter, as a Canadian citizen, is you're willing to commit to vote for them if they make commitments to you. So you're kind of swapping commitments at election time. That is the way we want to see and view elections. We don't want to be the people that are passively sitting back and waiting for someone to open up the menu of choices with us and have us just shop off the menu of whatever it is that's there. You know, this promise here or that promise there. We want to help design and construct the menu. We want to help get the candidates in. We want to help get the candidates messaging of commitments to us. We want to make sure that caucus and the national campaign team clearly hear from us as individuals, and you locally exercising your constituent authority and your citizen authority. You're the perfect person to do it. No one else can do it for you. So if you've got an incumbent member of parliament, for example, that's a conservative, you need to schedule a meeting with them ASAP. You need to say, hey, I just wanted you to know a little bit about me and who I am. I'm a mother of 2. I have a family. We live in your riding. My husband is he works at a local bakery, and we're excited. We go to church. We're churchgoers, and we just wanted to let you know some of the things that we believe in and ask you what you're willing to do, what you're willing to commit to at election time to earn my support as a voter. I want to actually, vote for somebody, and I want to find out what it is that you're willing to commit to. And it's as simple as that. And you might think, well, Doug, it's just me. It's just one person. But you know what? If everybody all across the nation are going in and meeting with their incumbent members of parliament and their local conservative candidates and letting them know that we're not a slam dunk. We are not a slam dunk at election time. Please, 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 Pierre Poilievre, do not make the mistake of believing that we're just going to go along at election time, because that might be a tactical error on your part and a national campaign team. So what are you willing to commit to? What will you do to demonstrate, for example, with the second pillar, what are you willing to do to demonstrate that you're going to fight to defend my right of belief and freedom of religion when you're elected into government? What can you commit to? What's your promise that you're going to make? Because I'm going to promise to vote for you if you promise to do something else, right? We're going to exchange those commitments. So that's really important for you to do. Now, for those of you who are perhaps a little uneasy or maybe uncomfortable, the best way for you to double up on the influence that you have locally is to take someone who shares your views and values, who also lives in the same riding, who also has the same constituent authority and citizen authority, and take them along with the meeting and say, hey, it's not only me, it's me and Mary. We both believe that parents have the right to raise our children the way we want. Okay, so now you can imagine that if you've got a member of parliament, now two people are there and they're in the and they're talking to them, or if they've got an incumbent or a candidate, a conservative candidate, they're going to pay perhaps twice as much attention. I don't know. How about if there was a larger measure of influence that perhaps a church leader or pastor might have? Like maybe a pastor has a large local church and they don't want to get a partisan. They don't want to be picking winners and losers, but they can sit down with every one of the candidates and let them know, hey, you know what? We're a church of 600 in this riding. And a lot of us live in this riding, but we all believe in certain things. We wanted to share that with you today in this meeting. So if you can imagine, take this picture, you've got a candidate who's sitting in a church of 600 or even 100, doesn't matter the number. It's the multiple of you. It's however many of you, people like you can find. But you sit them in a room and the pastor just simply says, we're so thankful you're here. We're excited about the possibilities on the road ahead. We're looking for people to vote for. We want to look for people who share our views and values and who are willing to stand for ours. And we just wanted to ask you, what are you willing to commit to with regard to, well, let's pick the third pillar. How are you going to commit, or what are you going to do to commit to provide safety and security for the vulnerable people that live among us in our communities? What are the platform planks of the election? And now you got to be careful with this. I want to just, and I'll close with this. Make sure that you're not just talking to a person that is just saying whatever it is that they think you want to hear so that they get your support. After they say what they're willing to do, ask them, okay, well, great, that's fantastic. Now, how can we follow up on that? What's the best way for me to see the commitment that you're making manifest in the national campaign strategy of the party? Because we want to see the national campaign team, as one of their platform planks, for example, make some commitments related to, well, how about curbing euthanasia? Or maybe we can do something finally about abortion legislation in our nation. Or how about commitments to deal with the fiscal crisis and the tax burden that's being placed on our children? Specific things you're looking for based on the principles that undergird the four pillars. And again, I have to tell you, if you're a church family, or especially if you're a church leader, and you think that you've got with 600 people in your church or 100 people in your church, if you think you could just ride this one out and kind of walk past it and someone else will step out and do the work for you, that's not how it works. I worked in a member of Parliament's office for 6 years. I can tell you that if you don't show up, no one will show up. It's the people that show up and communicate their views and values to their elected officials and the candidates that present themselves as prospective members of parliament. Those are the people that get heard, and those are the people that the party and the national campaign teams respond to. So you have to stand up yourself. You have to do the work. You have to do it. Now, we're going to help you. So this is why between briefings, this is me on the National Leadership Briefing today, but between briefings, that's where you get in touch with me. You send me an email and says, okay, Doug, I get it. I got to do something. How can we best organize this? I mean, if you're having trouble communicating or putting a plan together, just send me an email at president@familyaction.ca, president@ familyaction.ca, and I help you. I coach you. That's what we do in the briefing. We have the briefing once a month for 1 hour, and then we spend the rest of the time between the briefings coaching and consulting and helping people move forward in executing the plan. And if you get hung up and stuck, you check in with me and we work through it. That's how it works. So anyway, I look forward to hearing from you if you get hung up. But boy, don't make the mistake of thinking this is all going to turn out just fine if we don't negotiate for platform, because I can assure you, once again, we will experience the pain later if we get a conservative government in power that does not acknowledge or understand or believe that they have to fulfill any kind of mandate to people of faith who believe things like you and I believe. If they don't believe there's any kind of commitment they've made to us, well, it's just going to be a real hard road on the road ahead for us as Christians. So anyway, we'll leave it there for now, and then we're just going to come right back. I want to get going and get into the conversation about Israel. And I got a special video I want to share with you. And then we're going to talk about the Jews that live in your neighborhood. How about that? Thanks so much for your time so far. Appreciate you taking the time. And we'll be right back after this. Bye for now.
It's time to wake up from our slumber
and stand together, united as one. One family, one body, one church.
We will not walk past the vulnerable.
Say nothing, do nothing, and turn a blind eye.
We are citizens of a great nation.
We are good Samaritans to our neighbors. You are not alone.
We are the largest unified voice in Canada. So we stand united. This is our rally cry. We are Christ to our nation. This is our battle cry. He shall have dominion from sea to sea, and from the river unto the ends of the earth. Righteousness will reign. Justice will prevail. We are united.
Okay, before we move forward here, I just want to double check with you, remind you that we are laying over the conversation about looking for those strategic prayer opportunities. So again, as you are perhaps putting this message in front of your church family, or calling people forward from your church family to meet with a local member of parliament, or you're about to send out an invitation to the local candidate to come and meet with you. Remember, these are all opportunities for you to provide prayer cover, or to provide prayers that would break through, that would maybe you're having difficulty getting a meeting and you want to open up a door and provide an opportunity. So you're always looking for those very specific things that you can pray for to break through or to achieve the overall objective of the plan, which of course is to secure commitments from the incoming conservative government. That's what we want. We want commitments from them ultimately to us, so that when they become government, they will fulfill a mandate that has been agreed upon by the church and by the incoming government. This is happening all the time. Believe me, if you think that I'm suggesting that you and I are going to be doing this as Christians in Canada and no one else is doing this, well, I just want to set the record straight on that. People are lined up to speak into the ear of Pierre Poilievre with all sorts of crazy ideas about what they want to see on the road ahead, and negotiating for their support is something that the conservative candidates and the national campaign team is certainly willing to do. They are constantly using what I like to call the political calculus on how it is that they can achieve a majority conservative government, and who they need to deal with and who they don't need to deal with. So we want to be people that they need to deal with. They need to hear our what's important to us, and they need to make commitments to us as a community and as individuals about what they're willing to do when they become government. So, okay, enough about that for now. Let's move on. Now, I'm going to start out, first of all, by saying that I've just prayed an awful lot about this particular segment. I want to make sure that we are looking at these issues through the right lens and with the right heart. And of course, I'm talking about Israel. I'm talking about the situation and the circumstances that Israel as a nation finds itself in right now, and as you look out and you see how the world is responding to what's happening in Israel and in Gaza right now, then we have to make sure we're accurate. We're looking at this accurately. So I'm going to start out first by sharing my screen with you and sharing a video that Stephen Harper did a few years back for Prager University. Now, this Prager University, by the way, I'm going to put this in the post notes. This is a fantastic source of very high quality and what I consider to be reliable and information you can count on being true. So feel free to use Prager University as a resource in the future. I'll include that link. But for now, let's listen to what Stephen Harper had to say a few years ago about Israel. And it's just a 5-minute video, and that'll sort of lay the foundation of where we're going to go next when we start talking about not only Israel, but the Jews that live in our communities. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, well, here we are on the YouTube channel for Prager University. You can see there on the bottom left-hand corner, Prager U is what you would search under YouTube, and then you could subscribe to that channel. There are a lot of really great resources there that you will find, and I'm sure you're going to benefit from being able to look at their archives. So here we go. Let's have a listen to what Prime Minister Stephen Harper has to say about Israel and human rights, and then we'll come right back.
When I was the Prime Minister of Canada, I was often asked this question: why do you support Israel? My response, in effect, was always the same: why wouldn't I support Israel? Why wouldn't I support a fellow democratic nation where open elections, free speech, and religious tolerance are the everyday norm? Why wouldn't I support a country with a vibrant free press and an independent judiciary? Why wouldn't I support a valuable trading partner and a wellspring of amazing technological innovation? Why wouldn't I support our most critical ally in the Middle East and in the international struggle against terrorism? In a rational world, in a world where simple common sense prevailed, the question, why do you support Israel, would be like asking, why do you support Australia or Canada? But we don't live in that rational common sense world. So the case for Israel has to be made over and over. I, for one, am happy to make it. Let me start with this. Every military action Israel has ever taken has been to protect itself. Israel is not an aggressor state. It's a defensive state. This has been true from its founding to this day. As a fledgling nation in 1948, Israel was immediately attacked by its Arab neighbors. Their goal was not to contain the tiny new country. It was to annihilate it. No nation came to Israel's aid. Not the United States, not my country, Canada, not the United Kingdom, no one. They all thought Israel would lose, but it didn't lose, it won. In 1967, Israel's neighbors again sought to utterly destroy the Jewish state, a nation that had then existed for 2 decades. Again, Israel prevailed, and it survived another all-out attack in 1973. Those are the big wars. But I'm not sure there's been a single day in Israel's entire history when some act of terror has not been waged against it, inside or outside its borders. There have been 2 bloody waves of terror, so-called intifadas, in the late 1980s and the early 2000s, when Israelis were blown up on buses, at pizza parlors, and celebrating weddings. There have been incursions from terror groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon. There have been thousands of rocket attacks from Hamas in the Gaza Strip, even after Israel completely withdrew from that territory in 2005. In between the wars, in between the terror, Israel has sought peace with its neighbors, and it has achieved peace treaties with Egypt and Jordan. For others, however, every Israeli gesture for peace is met with incitement and violence. I recount this history for one reason. Any nation that has endured what Israel has endured could easily have become a police state. But through it all, Israel has never abandoned its commitment to the rule of law, to democracy, to tolerance. 1/5 of its citizens are Muslim. They enjoy the same rights as Jewish citizens. They occupy key positions in the nation's courts, press, and government, and they have their own parties representing them in the Knesset, Israel's parliament. To say that Muslims in Israel are the freest Muslims in the region is an understatement. How about this as a human rights test? Prisoners in Israel, be they Jewish or Arab, are well treated, well fed, and have access to the best possible medical care. Parents and spouses of these prisoners know where they are and that they are safe. Who else in the region but Israel can make that claim? Through all the wars and all the terror, Israel has survived, and especially in the last 20 years, it has thrived. It's known as Startup Nation, and with good reason. Key components of your cell phone and your laptop were designed in Israel. A drug or a medical device that has saved your life or the life of a loved one may have been developed in Israel. Yet there are leftist politicians, activists, artists, academics, and college students who devote their lives to denouncing Israel, calling for boycotts, demanding it be cut off from academic and professional societies. Do they denounce the Palestinian leadership that hasn't held an election in well over a decade? Do they denounce the leadership of Hamas, who use women and children as human shields to protect their fighters? No, they denounce free, vibrant, democratic, innovative Israel. With all the brutal and violent regimes, not only in the Middle East, but around the world, how is one to explain singling out Israel for condemnation? Sadly, only one explanation fits: anti-Semitism. Do these haters of Israel question the legitimacy of any other democratic nation, of any nation for that matter? Of course, the answer is no. Somehow they only manage to oppose the Jewish one. The State of Israel has now existed for 70 years. It is one of the freest, most prosperous, most successful nations on earth. Why do I support Israel? Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't anyone? I'm Stephen Harper, 22nd Prime Minister of Canada for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To help keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Okay, well, let's just make a note here that that was a video that was recorded by former Prime Minister Stephen Harper 4 years ago. However, it is still applicable today. When you're talking about the nation of Israel, nothing has changed. They are a defensive state. They are not an aggressor state. They are a democracy. They operate as a democracy. They are continually being provoked and attacked by their neighbors and by state-sponsored terrorists that are funded by Iran. So these things continue to happen. And as this recent crisis in the Middle East has begun, you and I have experienced in our lives, for those of us who are out there in conversations, we are constantly running into the discussion point of whether or not we stand with Israel. Okay, and that's great. I clearly stand with Israel. You clearly stand with Israel. Many of us do. It's understood, all for the right reasons. We look at the terror attack by Hamas on October 7th as absolutely barbaric. There is no moral equivalence between anything Israel has done and what happened on October 7th. It is clear that Israel is doing what Israel has to do to protect its people and to eliminate the threat that is Hamas. So those things and what is happening in the Middle East is one point of conversation. But what I wanted to talk with you today is about the Jews that live here at home with us in Canada. We are a Canadian ministry, and so we're looking on the horizon all the time, as I say, to advance the principles of the four pillars, the things that we believe in. We want to see them reflected in our laws and the policies of government. Well, what is happening right now in Canada is on the horizon is we are seeing a larger and larger threat looming for our Jewish neighbors in our communities. If you have not been aware, there has been a growing protest movement that it's been growing over the last few weeks in the major cities in our nation. Even some of the smaller cities have demonstrations in front of their city halls every Sunday at 2 p.m. You're getting gatherings of people that are coming out and protesting what Israel is doing in the Middle East, the plan they are executing in response to Hamas's attack on October 7th. And in those crowds of people that are showing up to protest, there are definitely a very specific type of person, and those are anti-Semites. There are people that are within the crowd. I'm not suggesting to you that every single person that shows up on the protest side is an anti-Semite, but I'm telling you that within those crowds, there are growing numbers of people who are being agitated into acting and communicating like an anti-Semite, or what I like to call Jew haters. There are Jew haters that are manifesting in our cities. And what is also happening is that this growing movement is not being missed. It's not something that the Jewish communities in our country are they're unaware of. They are very much aware of a growing anti-Semitic tone in these protests, and call them wisely oversensitive to things like that. They through their own histories have every right to be sensitive to gatherings of people who are in the streets and in amongst them when people are calling for their extermination openly in the streets. And that's what's happening. We have these demonstrations in larger cities, and people are openly screaming death to the Jews. They're openly screaming violence against Israel. They want people in the communities to feel terrorized and to live in fear. Now, in response, there are many members of the Jewish community who are willing to stand. In the face of that opposition, they are showing up also in these downtown gatherings, protests, and they are counter-protesting with their Israel flags. And they are standing in solidarity with those who've been attacked and their people back home in Israel, and for the Jews in their communities. And they're standing in defense of their right of belief and freedom of religion. They're standing in defense of their right to exist. Then where are they standing? They're standing right in the face of the people that want to exterminate them in many cases. Now, if you haven't been down to one of these protests, maybe you just don't know what it's like. Maybe you don't know what it's like to stand with somebody screaming in your face right across from you. But the fact is that they are standing there. Now, it was brought to my attention a little while ago that there is an obvious group of people missing from that expression of solidarity in these protests as in the Stand for Israel, and that is our Christian brothers. And I'm specifically mentioning the brothers, and I'm not being sexist, but I got to tell you that we are looking for people who are willing to stand in this. It's a frustratingly chaotic environment sometimes, to stand with our Jewish friends as they confront the agitated anti-Semites and Jew haters in these crowds. And so what I'm here today to do is to ask you to consider is that, and this is the prayer point overlay perhaps, is let's call forward those in our community, in the Christian communities of Canada. Let's call forward those that are able-bodied, strong males that are willing to go down there, not looking for a fight, but to simply stand alongside our Jewish friends here in Canada against the cry for their destruction, for the death to come to them and their families here in our nation. And let's appeal to the police that are present during these rallies to begin, if they haven't already, but begin to enforce the law and arrest those who are spewing the hate speech and are expressing the desire to have our Jewish friends killed just for being Jewish. So this is what I'm going to encourage you to do is the prayers. Please pray that those men would come forward, that those men would feel that it's time to rise up. This is our neighbor. We're called to love our neighbor. and our neighbor is being attacked and threatened in the streets. Parents of Jewish children are nervous about sending their kids to school. We just had a teacher in Queens in New York who had to barricade herself in a closet in a classroom because a gang of students found out that she posted a picture of herself with an "I stand with Israel" flag. She posted a picture of herself on her Facebook page, and the young kids started to rampage, to protest against her, and she felt threatened, the violence against her. Well, not everyone is called to face that kind of confrontation when we come down, but some of you are. And if you are someone who's willing to show up and to peacefully stand and pray and be Christians and love on our Jewish brothers and sisters who are being confronted, who are willing to stand for themselves at these protests, then please do so. If you need some help with some tips about how to enter into the fray, we've got people in various cities who are lined up and willing to help you get in and make sure you stay safe, and to try and keep you approaching it with the right heart. So but I want you to know this is something that is happening right now, and it's only growing in size. If we don't confront it, it will overrun us all. So and that's not hyperbolic language. This is something that is doing this right now, and we need to level it off by showing up in solidarity with our friends from Israel, our Jewish friends in our community. Okay, that's it for now. Let me know. Send me an email, president@familyaction.ca, and let's start showing up for them. It's important. All right, we're going to take a quick break, come right back, and I've got a couple of events that are coming up. I'll share the details with you of that, and then I will close it out today with just reminding you about the things you're going to need on the road ahead as a church in our nation. Bye for now. Okay, well, we are on the home stretch today. Thank you so much for your attention so far. A couple of things to finish up here. First of all, we have a couple of events to tell you about that are coming up. You're going to want to mark them on your calendar today. And also, I wanted to just quickly review a short list of things I really believe that you're going to require as a church in Canada on the road ahead in the way of infrastructure within your church. But let's get to that in a minute. First of all, let's start with the events. We have a Community Action Council Transformer Zoom call coming up on Thursday, December the 14th. That is Thursday, December the 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Now, I'm going to put these details in the post notes today, but just to give you a little bit of background here, every other month for the last year, we have been building an archive of some of the highest level of training that is available both in Canada and the United States. We've had some very high level, very long in the tooth leaders. I mean, we're talking about some very experienced church leaders come on calls to lay down a foundation of information and understanding that you can use to help power your local efforts to increase your influence in the community through establishing a community action council. So we in the national leadership briefing, we've been saying that all important relationship between you, the local church, local business leaders, and municipal government leaders, that triangle, that three-legged stool, so as to speak, is really important and will also be important on the road ahead. So we have been working with other leaders across North America to bring you these Transformer Zoom calls. If you have not been on one before, I encourage you to do it. Look in the post briefing notes today. You'll see an email address where you can send an email and request a registration for the upcoming event. Again, Thursday, December the 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern for 1 hour. So plan that on your calendar and then look to the post notes today. Fantastic. The second thing I want to bring to your attention is whether you are aware of it or not, there is something called artificial intelligence that is coming your way and is going to influence your lives. As a matter of fact, you may not realize it, but your life has already been influenced in a major way by artificial intelligence applications. And so what we felt was necessary was to bring really high-level leaders again to your attention, people that can provide the necessary training and information that you will need to help you navigate. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, in January right now, we are in talks to bring a leader up from the United States. Joe Matera will be coming to Canada, and we are working on the dates 19, 20, 21st. So there'll be an in-person seminar in the province of Alberta. However, I am working to see if there's not some way that we can actually bring some kind of an online presence as well. Let people come in via Zoom to also participate from across the nation. But I'll keep you posted on that. Nevertheless, though, the material that's going to be covered at this AI conference, we're going to have Joe Matera, but also another gentleman by the name of Elijah Lowe, who wrote this book, Navigating Faith with AI. And I'm going to put this in the post briefing notes as well. This is definitely a book. It's available on Amazon. You can pick this up, but check out these headlines in the index here, the contents. What is AI? What is artificial intelligence? That might not be a question you're readily able to answer, but it's answered here in the book. The impact of AI on the economy, medicine, law and government, education, the movies that you see, the scriptures that you read. There's also a section in here on how you can prepare your children for the AI world. And look at this book. It's not a thick one. You see that? It's totally manageable in your hands, but this is available. I'll put this in post briefing notes, but Elijah Lowe, the author of that book, is actually going to be at the training in January. So mark that on your calendar, right? Just kind of block it off as a tentative date, 19th, 20th, 21st. There'll be like a nighttime training and then another daytime. It'll be over 2 days. But again, if you're in Alberta, you're going to want to look to that, or anywhere near Alberta, you're going to want to look to participate in that. Or if we can get the online Zoom platform up and running too, then I encourage you to mark that in your calendar and just set that time aside to participate as a Zoom attendee as well. So that's it for the actual events. Now, just to close it off here, I wanted to remind you, because we've talked about this before, is I have stressed with you that I see some challenges coming down the pipe for the church here in Canada. I really believe that where we have seen challenges with law and policy at the federal level, more and more we're going to feel that pressure come to us at the municipal level. So those relationships with the community action councils that churches establish locally, those relationships with local business leaders and with their municipal government leaders, those are going to be key on the road ahead as more and more activists engage locally and start working against the local church in municipal government. You're going to feel it. So you're going to want to be in relationship with these individuals who are your municipal government leaders, and we can help you do that. So if you do not have a community action council in your church and you'd like to establish one, please get in touch with me at president@familyaction.ca. We can help you get started, and we can use the resources that we've been compiling in the course of this last year to help you get it rolling in a real effective way. So that's the first thing. The second thing that you're going to need in your local church, and I've said this before, is you're going to need a citizen action group. Now, this is not a group. I'm just clarify what it's not. A citizen action group in your local church is not a political extension of the church. It's not a political arm of the church. It is simply a group of people who have been asked by the pastor to serve the pastor or the church leader in helping him to navigate the whole sea of information out there on all the different cultural, political, governmental, societal issues that are coming out there. So you are basically triage and preparing information and gathering data and helping to make a plan and helping your pastor navigate. When your pastor gets overwhelmed on the road ahead, this kind of infrastructure built under them can be very effective. So I'm going to recommend, again, as I always do, to start on the National Leadership Briefing website. Right on the website, there's a section called CAG Ministries, which stands for Citizen Action Group Ministries. And there are videos there that you can watch just to get a sense as to how one pastor started and why one pastor started a Citizen Action Group. From there, you're going to want to get in touch with me, Doug Sharp, at president@familyaction.ca, and I'll help you get your CAG ministry started in your local church and get you started in such a way that it's going to be effective right off the get-go. You're not going to have a long lag time of taking years to build this thing. You're going to be able to start moving, making difference, and helping your pastor immediately by setting up with me. So get in touch with me. I'm here to serve between briefings, of course. All right, well, that's it for me today. That's all the time that we have. Again, I sure appreciate your time. I'm excited about the road ahead. We have a lot of opportunity, in spite of the fact that we do have a lot of challenge that we can see on the horizon. There's a lot of opportunity. We want to be available and ready to capitalize on it. And as long as we all continue to work together and speak with a unified voice, our voice will be heard in the nation. Christians and people who share our views and values must be, because you know why? We know that the things that we believe in produce positive results in the lives of our neighbor and our nation. And we want to have our ideas out there competing with everyone else's. Well, thanks again for your time today. Until next time, and until we meet again in the new year, just know that over this Christmas season, I will be praying for you, for praying for your family, and I will, of course, continue to pray for this great nation of Canada. Bye for now.
We're crying out for the church to be the church in the community.
The ecclesia is a relational model that God has been calling forward.
Being present is about showing up on a regular basis.
So I'm convinced that God will birth a love in one's heart for the place He has put you in. And sometimes that requires a process. Sometimes we don't initially love the place where we are or where God is sending us, but we respond in obedience.
And I believe there must be the restoration of the cry of God in the heart of us as leaders to cry out to God for our cities.
And for those of you who have a heart for your local community, then I would encourage you to participate in what we call Transformer Calls, focused on your engagement and the love that you have for your communities.